Starting off the best list, we have A Royal Problem with a rating of 9.0, and that's from 712 reviews. So I'm just going to start this off with I don't really care for this episode. I definitely wouldn't put it in the top 10. I probably wouldn't put it in the top 50. I love Starlight. She is my favorite character, but I don't really care for any of the episodes that star the sisters or even feature the sisters together. None of them paint them in a light where they're cooperative or happy to be with each other, and it drives me crazy, and it just repeatedly does the same thing. The sisters are bickering, something happens, and they're like, oh, we're not bickering anymore. And then in the next episode, the sisters are bickering, and then something happens, and they're like, oh, we're not really bickering anymore. The sisters are bickering, something happens, and they're like, oh, we're not bickering anymore. It is so terrible a writing style, and it's just because they're probably all written by different people, and each time the person just wants to, they're like, oh, they're sisters, and it's night and day? Oh, let's make them fight, and then realize that there's no reason to fight. And that's just awful. It's awful reading, and literally no development for the two most interesting characters in the entire show. Starlight saves this episode from being an absolute atrocity. Twilight is pretty interesting too, with her freaking out and being with Starlight, but Starlight heavy carries this episode. My main gripe with this episode is the entire fact that Daybreaker came from this episode and became a character in the fandom, and I will say this every time I talk about Daybreaker, I will reiterate. Daybreaker is not real. She is a figment of Starlight Glimmer's imagination that came to life in her nightmare of what she thought Celestia might be like if she turned evil like Luna did. Daybreaker doesn't exist in reality. Celestia does not have the same mental issues that Princess Luna does. If you make Daybreaker a real character, you're removing one of the most unique things about Princess Luna and just saying Celestia could be the same as Luna, because Celestia could go through traumatizing things and react the exact same way that Luna did. And that's stupid. Don't take away from Princess Luna a unique factor for her being Nightmare Moon and being able to shift like that because she felt betrayed or whatever she felt that drove her to that. Daybreaker doesn't exist. Celestia never felt like that, and even if she did, there's no evidence in all of the canon that points to the fact that she would become some tyrant sun monster. It's just really dumb. It's really lazy. It's not something that even is in the reality of the show. It's just in a nightmare, and people picked it up and ran with it, and that really sucks. This episode, though, I'd say it was, like I said, fine. I really like the Starlight parts. I really like the scene where Twilight drags Starlight away, and Starlight is just not happy about being dragged away. That's funny. But the rest of the episode is just really heartless to the sisters. I'd give this like a 2.5 out of 5, so like a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's absolute garbage. It's not one of the worst episodes in the series, but it's most definitely not one of the best. Okay, here we go. At number 9, we have Amending Fences with a 9.0, and that's from 822 reviewers. Okay, so let's just get right out of the gate. Amending Fences is one of the best episodes of Friendship is Magic. I think it's one of the best episodes of anything I've ever seen. I love this episode to bits. I love Moondancer. I love Minuet. I love Twilight's friends. I love the conflict. I love the fact that Twilight isn't perfect and kind of screwed up before she became the princess and wants to rectify that. There's only one thing that I really would complain about this episode, and that's the fact that it is retconning. In the first season of Friendship is Magic, we're presented with, well, in the first episode of the first season, we're presented with the fact that Twilight isn't really close to anyone. she doesn't really have friends, and that's the entire point of her going to Ponyville and making friends. With the whole Moondancer's party plot point and the girls being like, are you going to Moondancer's party, and Spike having the present, it's to illustrate that Twilight wasn't really close to these girls. They didn't really have a close relationship. They weren't really friends in Twilight's mind. But then when you see like the whole, oh, they were really friends and they were really close and they knew each other very closely, it's like that doesn't really meld well with the fact that amending fences happens. And that's fine. I don't really have a big issue because it kind of fits if you do a little bit of mental gymnastics, and sometimes mental gymnastics is fine for the sake of having a really good episode. And this episode is really, really good. Not only does it introduce really, really, really good characters like Moondancer and Minuet, not only is it a really good moral message that Twilight, that you should rectify your problems and never just leave people behind randomly because it can really affect them. Even if you had friends from before, sometimes they value your friendship more than you value the friendship. So it's a really good message. It's really emotional. It's sad when Moondancer has her breakdown. It's really sweet when they all, like when Minuet is like, we're all your friends and we'd be honored. Like that. It's just really, 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 really good. It's also amazing because it continues the whole Starlight Glimmer being the villain. It is in the part where they're inside of the restaurant and Starlight's behind the menu. But yeah, this to me is like a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, one of the best episodes in the entire series. I'd say probably top 5 easy. Yeah, I think this deserves, honestly, a much higher spot than this on the top 10 best episodes, but the fact that it's here means, yeah, a lot of people liked it. Coming in at number 8, we have Twilight's Kingdom Part 1 with a rating of 9.0, and that's from 1,000 reviewers. So first of all, I'm already not big on reviewing half episodes because it's not a completed episode. I don't really like the idea of that, but this is the format that they have on IMDb, so we're just going to roll with it. I really don't like this entire climax couple of episodes. I think it's not great. I don't think Tyrek is interesting at all. When I was younger and I was into crazy Dragon Ball stuff and epic crazy battles and stuff like that, this blew my mind because, well, not this episode. Let's just talk about this episode. So this episode, because of You'll Play Your Part, I love You'll Play Your Part. I think it's one of the best songs in the entire series. It's the only song that we have with all of the princesses singing together. It's one of the only songs that we got where Cadence sang again, and Cadence is one of the best singers in the entire show. The song is like near and dear to my heart. It's one of the top 5 best songs in all of Friendship is Magic, in my opinion. The rest of this episode is just not it for me at all. I think it's so bad. Reforming Discord caused the issue of, okay, so what are we going to do when there's a villain and Discord is around? And they literally had Discord just do a 180 immediately and go back to the bad side because that's the easy way to handle him in a situation like this. Oh man, he's too powerful and he one-shots Tyrek. What do we do? Just have him join Tyrek. Okay, that works. Yeah, that's lazy writing. Tyrek's power is boring as crap to me. Anytime you have a character that just takes power, it's boring as crap, and I don't think it's interesting because it's literally just, I steal what you do, and then I do it, and that is lame. Yeah, I don't think that this episode, I don't think this episode or both episodes, if they were to be considered one, even deserve to be top, like anywhere near the top. I think that this climax series is worse than Chrysalis, A Canterlot Wedding. I don't think that it should be here. I would say that this episode as a standalone would probably be, minus You'll Play Your Part, I would say this episode would be like a 1 out of 5 or like a 2 out of 10. With You'll Play Your Part, I'd give it like a 2.5 out of 5 or a 5 out of 10. Coming in at number 7, we have The Return of Harmony Part 2 with a 9.0 rating, and that's from 1.2 thousand people. So once again, we have another two-parter, this being the latter half of Season 1's premiere. And I think this one is just much, much better than the Tyrek one. We get a much more interesting villain in Discord. Discord is really, really interesting. I think it probably would have been a better idea to keep him evil until the end of the series, but instead they decided to reform him, and that created issues, but whatever, that's regardless. This episode, I think, is a lot funner than the Season 4 Climax 2. I think this just is a better opener, a better pair of episodes. This episode is just better than that other one. I don't know why I'm talking about that other one still. This one on its own merits is good. I think this one is especially good because the writing is particularly excellent. So we had Princess Celestia telling Twilight that she wanted her to send her letters about friendship in the second episode of Season 1, about her learning about friendship. And they tied that in so very well in this episode, with Celestia sending those letters back to Twilight and Twilight understanding how friendship works and why you should fight for your friendships. And it's just really, really good. A really good lesson. It's really morally good. Discord is a great villain. You have some really funny parts with the discorded main six being the opposite of who they are. Yeah, this episode is good. I would say that this episode, like, just standalone, is like a 4 out of 5 or like an 8 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's one of the best episodes in the series, far from it. It's really hard for Climax or Premiere, like the double episodes, to be some of the best. I think if any of them deserved to be some of the best, it would probably be like a Canterlot Wedding, just because of how much it gave us. And that's probably it. I don't think these other episodes really deserve top 10 spots, because I think the top 10 spots should be filled with episodes that are very, very well written in the allotted 22 minutes. And a lot of these double episodes aren't written as well as the 22-minute episodes, because they're filling a lot more time, and either they don't have enough time to do something epic anyways because it's not long enough, or they kind of just do whatever and show whatever to fill the time. But this episode, I'd say it's good. I don't think it should be on a list of top 10 episodes for this, though. Number 6 is Slice of Life with a 9.1 rating, and that's from 968 reviewers. So this one being this high to me is kind of weird. It makes sense, but also I personally wouldn't put it this high. I think that it is an interesting episode in concept, but I don't think that everything works in it, and I think that's on a person-to-person basis. I really like what they did in this episode with Vinyl Scratch and Octavia, because I like Vinyl and Octavia a lot, and I think that everything they did with them fits. I really like what they did with Derpy and Dr. Hooves, because, again, I think that all fits. The fact that it's about, I don't know, Muriel, is that her name? Muriel and Cranky? I don't care about Cranky or about Muriel. I think that part just, who cares? I don't think the fandom really cared about them either. The Lyra Bonbon stuff really gets me angry. I like Lyra Bonbon as a couple. I like them being together, but the whole Sweetie Drops or whatever, Agent of Smile, that just seemed like ridiculous and dumb for no reason. Like, there's no reason to just be like, oh, she's a secret agent. Why? Why does this even have to be a thing? You couldn't just make them interesting as a couple. I really don't like that this is an episode where, of course, the sisters are bickering. Big surprise, they're bickering with each other. But then at the end of the episode, they're like, "Oh, we're not really fighting. They're like Celestia and Luna fight like children, like young baby children, siblings would. Like if they were like 7 or 8, and like if Celestia was like 8 or 9 and Luna was like 6 or 7. This is how siblings act. But they've been alive for like 1,000+ years. They'd be a little bit more mature at this point, and it just frustrates the crap out of me that they make them like this joke of a relationship of sisters, and it that pisses me off with this one. Shining Armor crying at the wedding. He didn't cry at his own wedding. I don't know why that was a thing. There's like a lot of just weird things with this episode, and a lot of like things that people would like depending on. It's just primarily up to you. I wouldn't say that this episode at all deserves to be top 10. I don't think the plot is good enough. I don't think it affects characters that matter. None of the characters in this episode that get any sort of development matter at all. Lyra and Bonbon don't matter. Scratch and Octavia don't matter. Derpy and Hooves don't matter. The sisters don't matter because the writers suck balls and they just write them crap. Yeah, so it's kind of just like it is a slice of life episode, like from an anime where like nothing happens and nothing really matters. And I guess that's up to you. I really like slice of life anime. I don't want that kind of stuff in my MLP unless it has to do with the main characters and developing their characters, because when you make an episode like this, all that it does is develop characters that more than likely won't get any more development, and they never did. Like some of them did, like Hooves in like season 9 or something, but again, it didn't matter. These were already characters that the fandom had decided who they were and what they were going to be anyways, and like there was no reason for this episode to really be. If they say it was a love letter to fans, but then like they have that episode later where they're like, "We hate you, fans," and it's funny, but don't you like they shouldn't have done this. If you don't want to, like, if it's not going to benefit the overall story, like, what's the point? I'd say this episode, like, standalone is probably like a 3 out of 5. It's like a 6 out of 10. I think it's fine. I just would not include it on a best of for Friendship is Magic. Coming in at number 5, we have Crusaders of the Lost Mark with a review rating of 9.2, and that's from 767 reviews. This episode is the correct way to do a long-running conclusion, a conclusion to a long-running plot point. So, two different characters. You have the CMC. There are 3 different characters, but they're collectively the CMC, and then you have Rainbow Dash. From their introductions, ignoring episode 1 when the CMC are together, but from their introductions as the CMC and Rainbow Dash's sole motivation was to join the Wonderbolts. The CMC's sole motivation was to get their cutie marks. Rainbow Dash became a Wonderbolt randomly at the beginning of an episode when Spitfire just flew down and said, "You're a Wonderbolt now, you're no longer a reserve." Rainbow Dash was excited and then just went, and we got Newbie Dash, and it was awful. That was such a horrible conclusion or fulfillment of her long-running storyline. Crusaders of the Lost Mark. This is how the CMC get their cutie marks, and they fulfill their long-running storyline. And how do they do it? It's an elaborate episode, lots of music. They work towards helping their main rival and enemy. They end up doing that. Their main rival and enemy is reformed. They have this brilliant scene of floating into the air and getting their cutie marks. And then they get a song after that with their sisters, quote unquote, because again, Rainbow Dash isn't, but This is exactly how you resolve a long-running storyline, not Rainbow Dash. This is a great episode. I would say it is one of the best episodes of the entire series. And I wouldn't even say it's because of the CMC per se. I would say more it's because of Diamond Tiara. Diamond Tiara in this episode is amazing. It's really impactful when she tells Silver Spoon to be quiet. Like, that part is like, it's like, whoa, like, Diamond is mean, but that was like really mean to like her best friend. And you have the repercussions of that. And you have the reasons that she's like that with Spoiled Rich. We get another great character in Spoiled. She's a horrible, horrible mother. We get great songs. I think that Diamond Tiara's song is amazing. This episode does, I think, everything right, and there's only one real downside to this episode, and that is that this is the last speaking role of Diamond Tiara. She kind of becomes relegated to a background pony, which is really strange because there are so many times later in later seasons when they could have used a Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, and they just didn't. Like, off the top of my head, the episode where the CMC are kind of splitting up and they're all going and doing different things, and Apple Bloom starts working with the like tap guy, the tap young pony. There's a scene in there where Apple Bloom is taking a class, like a cooking class, and Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are working together, but Apple Bloom isn't working with them, and it's like, why would they not work together? They essentially becomes friends. They become friends after that, and they just didn't use Diamond at all, and it's really, really weird. I've never liked that. But focusing solely on this episode, the songs are amazing. The plot is great. The reformation is great. The other also thing that is not great is their cutie marks. It makes sense that they kind of wanted to theme them all around each other's, but it really, 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 like, because they wanted their cake and they wanted to eat it too. They wanted to theme them around each other's, and they also wanted to give them unique cutie marks. And it's like, so like they're weird cutie marks. They're not the greatest cutie marks. That's like my only complaint. But I'd still say that this is up there as one of the best episodes in the entire series. It's a 10 for me, a 5 out of 5. I really like this episode. I like everything about this episode. I like the characters that are introduced in this episode. It being here around 5 is probably where I'd put it on my own list, around 5. I'm not sure if I'd give it number 5 out of the top 10, but I think this is a fair place to put it. Number 4 is Twilight's Kingdom Part 2 with a 9.2, and that is from 1.1 thousand reviews. So now I can talk about the Dragon Ball episode. That's all this is. It's a Dragon Ball episode. Everybody remembers the Dragon Ball fight that Twilight Sparkle had with Tyrek. And, like, that's not a problem. I think the problem is that this is rated a 9.2. There's no way this should be rated a 9.2. This is a completely meh episode, minus the fight between Twilight and Tyrek. And even the... Let's talk for a second about spectacle versus substance. It's pretty much just look at how cool this fight is, and then it's over, and then you're like, oh, the rest of this episode really just is nothing. It's not great. Some of the, like, not worst decisions, but some of the most, like, affectatious decisions over the entire series. You destroyed Golden Oaks to make way for the Castle of Friendship, and it's like, that's already kind of getting towards stuff where it's like, just Twilight with the princess's powers will always be stupid to me, because that's just ludicrous. We can just give our magic to whoever we want, and they just have the magic, and like, it's really dumb because it's like, protect this magic, Twilight. Twilight immediately goes out and fights with it. Well, you could have just done that with Celestia or Luna, who have to have more experience fighting. Could have just been like, give me all of your magic, I will go fight Tyrek. And it's like, it's just dumb. The rainbow power, like, I'm pretty sure this was like the only time they used the rainbow power, because like, random ability so that they can resolve. I don't even know if they sold many toys with rainbow power. Like, it's just a really not great climax episode compared to so many other climax episodes. And the only part of all of like the only thing remembered from this episode is the Tyrek Twilight fight, and that sucks. If I were to rate this episode, I'd probably give it around a 2 out of 5, like a 4 out of 10. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not even fine. It's just kind of there, and the only reason anybody like reviews it high, I think, is because of the spectacle of the fight between Tyrek and Twilight. The rest of the episode just kind of... At number 3, we have A Canterlot Wedding Part 2 with a 9.2 rating, and that's from 1.3 thousand people. So this episode is really a mixed bag for me. I really, really love it, and I really, really hate it. Just like Chrysalis. I really, really love Chrysalis, and I really, really hate Chrysalis. With this episode, we got a lot of stuff. We got Chrysalis being a villain. We got actual Cadence. We got This Day Aria. Like, this episode, we got the Changelings as an entire species. This episode gave us so much as far as lore goes and interesting things. Chrysalis is the best villain by far, bar none, not even close. Cadence is like one of the best singers, and she only gets to sing in like this and in You'll Play Your Part, which is a travesty. We got Shining Armor being more like in love with Kid. We got a lot of cool stuff from this episode, and I can't deny it. But man, does my freaking blood boil at the fact that only Applejack apologized to Twilight in this episode because Twilight was right the entire time and everybody treated her like garbage. Not to mention the absolute assassination of Celestia being a good mentor in this episode. Like, holy crap, did they crap all over Celestia. She just betrays Twilight. Like, I don't believe you. Really? You don't believe your student that you've known for years, that you've placed your trust in to save your only sister from darkness? Like, that was already stupid enough that she didn't trust Twilight. But then she freaking gets absolutely destroyed by Chrysalis. And it's like, okay, so now not only are you incompetent when it comes to your own students, but you're incompetent when it comes to defending your nation. And then, on top of all of that, she doesn't even apologize to Twilight. But we do get all of that cool stuff. We also get the cool song at the end. I forget what it's called because I mix it with Equestria Girls songs. That song is really cool. It's also awful how they treated Luna here, and Luna just randomly shows up and she's like, did I miss it? Like, there's so much good and so much bad in this episode. It is crazy how good and bad this episode is. But I can understand some people putting this at the top of their list as like one of the best episodes as opposed to some of the episodes on this list. This episode does make sense to me if you were like, I really love this episode and I think it's one of the best in the series. I personally would give this episode like a 3-ish out of 5, a 6-ish out of 10. The drawbacks are too much for me to ignore, but the pluses are like really, really abundant here. It's a very mixed bag. Number 2 is The Last Problem with a 9.3. That's from 750 reviews. I'm pretty sure that this episode has such a high rating because it is the last episode of the series. And most people are voting or rating off of nostalgia or like memories of the series and stuff, and not this episode as a whole. Because there is literally, legitimately no way that this episode is the second best episode of the entire series. If this episode was just like, say they had made like season 10 and this wasn't the last episode, this would not be this high. There's legitimately no way. This episode's not great. Has a decent song. And that's pretty much it. Decent song. Uh, there's mad crazy disrespect to Starlight in this episode, which personally pisses me off. I wouldn't like if I was biased and Starlight mattered that much in the sense of me rating these episodes, I would say this is one of the worst episodes in the entire series. But it's not. It's not one of the worst episodes. But the Starlight disrespect is crazy high. Like Starlight doesn't even get to be there at the end when all of Twilight and her friends are standing there, and it's like that's your student. And then like Starlight, even at the thing where she brings the book with Spike, is kind of just shown for a couple of seconds and then just brushed off to the side like she was an afterthought. Like that sucks. Like that really sucks. But just this episode as a whole is just not great. Like luster is whatever. We got like the whole Apple Dash thing, which was half-hearted and like not confirmation of anything. And people will be like, but Ashley Ball said, dude, it doesn't matter. She's not a writer. She's not the writer of the series anyways. I couldn't care less if a voice actor said something. Like in the thing, it would have been great for the people who like that ship if they would have like, if Rainbow Dash would have pecked Applejack on the cheek or vice versa or something like that. But no, they just come in together and it's like, oh, everybody's like, oh my god, they're a couple. No, that's not enough to verify that. And for like Randy's to anybody, even like the writers, to be like, well, our intention was that. Well, then you should have put it in there. You should have made it clear in canon that they were a couple, and they didn't, and that sucks. Discord and Fluttershy was kind of just weird, but I guess they were hinting towards it with the whole I'm in love with Discord thing with Angel. It was cool seeing Pinky's like kids, but like as a final episode, this is crazy lackluster. It was like cool too that they put like Sunset into Twilight's like background thing or whatever, so that she was in canon at the very least. But yeah, it was just not well done. Like even looking back on it, the only parts I really remember are the non-flashback parts and the fact that Starlight got snubbed so bad. I know that like they're like preparing the thing for Twilight and like stuff doesn't go exactly as they planned, but that's all the time, and there was nothing really stand out in this episode. I'd give this episode probably like a 2.5 out of 10. 2.5 out of 5, like, so a 5 out of 10. It's just kind of there, an average, and I think that the reason that it's rated so high is, again, just because people's... Like, I'm sure if you go into the reviews on IMDb of the people who reviewed it and gave it high ratings, the people who did review it would be like, oh yeah, My Little Pony is great, I loved the entire series, blah, 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 and it's like, no, you're reviewing this single episode. You can review the entire, like, series as a whole, and you don't have to attach it to one single episode at the end of the series. And finally, coming in at number 1 is The Perfect Pear with a 9.5 rating, and that's from 1.1 thousand people. Yeah, I have no issues with this. It's whenever somebody talks about the best episode of Friendship is Magic, this is one of the first episodes that pops into my head. This episode is incredible. It gives us Pear and Bright, who are incredibly good characters. They don't take away... They didn't do the Scootaloo thing where it's like, oh no, look, Scootaloo's parents are right here. Like, this would have been an absolute disaster if the Apple parents were just gone for the time being and then they just randomly showed up and they're like, we're here. Dude, that would have sucked so bad. But thank God they didn't do that. We get a really, really, really touching... If you have a family that fights like this, it hits home even harder. That is even more effective as a storytelling device. The whole pears versus apples thing. We get an incredible song that's heartfelt and amazing. Pear is beautiful and such a great character, and Bright is upbeat and happy and such a cool dude. And the way that they resolve this at the end with the trees that they planted wrapping and becoming a single tree that produces both apples and pears, that's just wonderful. Like, this episode is perfect. I don't really have any complaints about this episode at all. And here's a fun fact. I was talking to a friend a while back, and they were like, what do you think is the best episode of MLP? And I was like, oh, A Perfect Pair. And they were like, oh, the one with William Shatner. And I was like, does it have William Shatner in it? And it's funny because I watched this episode way after it came out because I had left the fandom and then came back to the fandom. And I didn't know at all about, like, Bill Shatner being in the episode. And it's like, he could be taken out and you could completely remove him. Like, it's not like Weird Al. It's not like Weird Al or Discord. Like, you cannot remove Weird Al from the episodes that Weird Al is in, and you cannot remove John Delancey in the episodes that Discord is in, because that will drastically change the characters that they are. But, like, Grandpair could have been anyone, and it wouldn't have mattered. Like, there's literally no difference between Bill Shatner and just anybody else voicing Grandpair. This episode gets by on its own merits. It is incredibly well done. Everything they did with this episode worked from my perspective. Yeah, I don't really think that there is an episode that comes close. There are episodes that I personally really love other than this one, like Luna Eclipsed, but I still wouldn't really be able to say that Luna Eclipsed is better than this one. This episode is just pretty much the perfect Friendship is Magic episode.